Welcome to Crucible Cloudworks Live. My name is Chris, and each week we'll be interviewing professionals in their respective fields to get a behind-the-scenes look at what their day-to-day life is like and what it took to get there. It is my goal to empower you to find a role that you feel comfortable in, and maybe, by listening to our guests speak, you, too, can find your way. Initially, this podcast was to promote Salesforce and our team here at Crucible Cloudworks, but throughout the process, we've come across so many people with their unique take on this thing called work. Wherever you are right now, you're in the right place. So let's get started. All right, everybody. So today we're talking with my good friend Ileana, who I've worked with for a few years now on several different projects. She is by far one of the best front-end designers. She's a full-stack developer, but, usually I turn to her because she's one of the few people in the world I know of that actually likes working with CSS. So, whatever it is, she's actually got quite an interesting history compared to a lot of other professionals out there because she never really seems to be in one place at a time. She is a self-described digital nomad. I think the first time we worked together, you were working where? You were working in Egypt at the time, was it?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then from where did you go next after that?
After Egypt, I went to Bali for a good period of time, and then after that, I went back to Egypt and then to the US. So I'm just hopping around.
I see, but the interesting thing is, like many of us, I mean, you were used to working remote, quite a bit, obviously. But were you working remote prior to the pandemic? That changed things for a lot of us, or?
I've always worked remote, actually. And actually, we met before the pandemic, I think, just right
We
before
did
it started.
technically, yeah. And the thing is, I mean, just as a full disclosure, I mean, how did we met by I believe I hired you for a job off of Upwork originally,
Yeah.
correct? Yeah. And I guess as far as freelancing goes as a digital nomad, how is doing work for Upwork actually?
Working on Upwork is pretty nice. It's changed a lot since I started working on Upwork, but it's nice
Hmm.
because you get to work with different clients and bid on projects and figure out what you want to work on. And if you don't like the client, you can fire them. But
Right.
that's
Yeah. I
all.
mean, for me, it's kind of a different scenario because, for me, I do a lot of staff augmentation roles and the like. And sometimes it's like, I get there for like 3 months, 6 months, that sort of thing.
Mhm.
But the thing is, I couldn't imagine like more of an Upwork style gig where, I mean, naturally you have client relationships, right? I mean, I've heard you
Yeah.
refer in the past to people, coming back to you repeatedly and repeat customers and like, but at the same time, it does have sort of a more of a gig worker, like Uberish feel to it, right?
Yeah, because you have to be in charge of everything and managing your time, making sure the client is happy all the time. But you also get that comfort of checking, is this a person I want to work with? Will we match? And sometimes you don't always get that when you do like stuff augmentation. I mean, you could do that, but it's not as.
Yeah, yeah. With staff augmentation, there's a few other hands in the middle of the way, right? So like,
Mhm.
even though you don't think it's a good fit, sometimes you'll be pushed into it anyway, or
Yeah.
that sort of thing. So yeah, there's more people to please sometimes. But I get with Upwork that there's definitely a more direct connection for better or worse, right? It's kind of like Uber. You can kick someone out of your car, and yeah.
Yes. Yeah. But the nice thing about Upwork is that you always get paid. Sometimes you have that issue where people are late or they don't want to pay because they don't think that the quality is good. But then at that time, you have to tell them like, "Hey, I did the work. Is there
Yeah.
anything that I need to do more to make you happy?"
The thing is,
Because
like,
on Upwork, sorry, on
no, no,
Upwork,
go ahead.
reviews are the bread and butter. Like they're the most important thing. One bad review can completely ruin your profile.
Okay. So it's kind of like Yelp then too in some ways, right?
Yeah.
So the thing is, I know from my experience with Upwork as a buyer, like they had a very good arbitration process where if someone had complaints about your work, that sort of thing, it would be reviewed by Upwork. Did you ever have to enter any arbitration proceedings for Upwork or?
Never, because I always make sure that my client is happy, and even if we don't agree on something, I try to just get it to the point where they're satisfied, and then we either don't work together again or things change.
So, keeping in mind that you could pick any of the contracts that are coming into you on Upwork, then what would you say some of the favorite projects you've worked on were?
Well, actually, some of my favorite projects were probably ones where I was also staff augmentation, kind of. So I worked, there was one company I worked with. I was only supposed to be there for 3 months, but I ended up
Hmm.
staying on for 8 months. But I learned a lot there, and the project went very smoothly.
Okay.
So,
So the thing is, I guess the next question that comes to mind is, I mean, how, how do I phrase this? I guess the next question that comes to mind then is what skill stack is needed for a remote developer to be a digital nomad? I'm sure that, if you sold this glamorous lifestyle that, hey, I could travel the world and work at the same time, but I'm sure not everybody could do it. I guess in terms of hard skills, what is your skill set that, is so much in demand that you could sell yourself on Upwork like that?
well, personally, I use a variety of languages. I use JavaScript, HTML, CSS, Ruby on Rails,
Right.
even Salesforce. It's just whatever the client needs. Like as
Yeah,
long
I,
as
I
you can
guess.
kind of be agnostic and go from one, like dive in from one to another, then it works out.
Okay, so I guess it's kind of strange because I sort of have the different approach myself in that like I'm just a Salesforce specialist primarily, right?
Hmm.
And I know so much about it with my domain knowledge there being not to date myself, but quite old, right? So I've been with the Salesforce platform quite a little while, but for you, I think your strength is that you can be more of a generalist and be open and flexible, which I guess helps on Upwork. In Upwork, does your listing do you list your skills under the different categories for each language like that? Or
The way that I work on Upwork is I see the job. So on Upwork, you can see job postings and you can apply to them. And then when you apply, you have like a proposal, and then you can say, I've done this and this and this. This is how I can help you. These are examples of my projects or products that I've worked on. And depending on the proposal that you send, the client either gets back to you and says, Hey, I really like your proposal, or they trash you. So
okay, yeah, but
yeah. You're not really, you're kind of pitching yourself in that way, but it's more what the client wants. And if you think that you can do what the client wants, then, or you can do like 70%, and you know that you can figure out the rest,
right.
then that's good enough.
Okay, but the thing is, clearly your work isn't just good enough because you are in demand and you still can find work. I guess a lot of that is ensuring that your environment is productive. But as a digital nomad, with your environment always changing, I mean, how do you set up your environment such that it maximizes your productivity? I mean, certainly, like you can't carry an army of guitars with you wherever you go.
You know.
So,
I think the
is
biggest
there
thing
any
is
particular setup that you need?
when you, wherever you go, you have to make sure your accommodation has good Wi-Fi, or if it doesn't have good Wi-Fi, it has be in a place that you can get data for cheap, so you can hotspot from your phone and have a good bandwidth there.
Right.
And noise canceling headphones are also very important. So
Right,
in
right.
case you
I
go in,
recall we had a call once or twice where I think you were like at a remote festival or something in Egypt at that one
yeah,
time. And yeah, I could hear it in the background, but you had the noise canceling headphones and you were on a hotspot and you were still able to work. So,
yeah.
okay.
So the noise canceling helps a lot, especially if you work from cafes, which I like to do because it gives you like kind of like the social aspect, so you're not all alone in your room.
Okay. Is that how
Also,
you kind of get the whole travel experience while you're continuing to work or?
yes, that, and also I like to go to co-working spaces sometimes, because then there you have the environment where everyone is working. So you're like, okay, I'm in an office, but everyone is working on different things. So when you go to have like coffee, a lot of co-working spaces have coffee or tea and like for free, and then you can interact with other people, see what they're doing, and they also have events for nomads. So,
Oh,
and you
you
can
mean
meet more
there's like
people that way.
actual co-working spaces geared specifically for nomads?
Yeah,
Oh, I've
because
never heard
it's
of that.
just become such a big thing now, especially, I mean, pre-pandemic, but also during the pandemic, where a lot of companies are like, let's, we can't use the office, so everything is remote now. So
Okay.
people take advantage of that, and there's been more and more co-working spaces everywhere.
Yeah, I guess now the battle is everybody's trying to force people to return to the office with varying degrees of success. But I guess
Yeah.
that's a story for another day. But I think part of that whole trying to force people to return to the office is it's just about trying to do time management for people. And I guess in your case, has time management been an issue working remote all the time, especially in such exotic locales? I mean, how do you
Sometimes,
fit in the hours during the day in order to like see the sights and also get the work done?
yeah, sometimes it's a challenge, especially when the time zones are so different. Like when
Oh,
I was
right.
in Bali, I was working for a company that was based on East Coast, East Coast time. And so I had to work from 9 p.m. until like 3 a.m. because it was a full time, which was
Right.
nice because I worked at night and then slept for a few hours, woke up, went surfing, got my coconut water, then my coconut water in my acai bowl, then went
Right.
home, rested a little bit more, and then at night or before, um, yeah, at night I would go and watch the sunset before I grab dinner and then work again.
Is a professional hazard for you that people would be jealous? Because I'm sure a lot of people listening right now are jealous hearing that, right? I mean, not to come off as a humble brag or anything. Oh, just go up doing surfing during the day, and then I had my fresh coconut that was brought to me. I mean, that's got to be a bit of a danger for you, right? I mean,
But it's about work
is
hard, play hard, right?
I
So
guess so, but I mean, is that like something you have to kind of keep under your hat, so to speak, a bit of the time that you're in all these exotic locations working while other people are just grinding away at an office, or
well, that's their problem.
I
They could
guess so.
also do it. They wanted to. It's about the
But
decisions we make.
true, but the thing is, not everybody can do that, right? Because the thing is, I mean, are there dangers to that sort of lifestyle? I mean, don't you think that it takes like a certain amount of, I guess, personal responsibility or something in order to
Oh,
have the discipline?
definitely. Because some people, I mean, some people think that the digital nomad life is so glamorous, which
Mm.
it can be, but you have to be careful about where you go because some places the disparity is so wide.
Disparity,
So
like income disparity.
yeah, income disparity. So
Okay.
there's people who get paid like tons of money and stay in these like beautiful villas and everything, and then just down the street they have people like living in slums.
Mm.
So that can be dangerous because there's more break-ins and people want to steal your stuff because you have nice stuff. So
Okay.
you just have to be careful.
Is it like so? I'm trying to juxtapose that against like your typical world traveler. Like we all know those people that like they'll go to the 5-star
Mhm.
resort, but they won't step one foot out of that property. But I guess
Yeah.
as a digital nomad, especially if you're like using a local co-working space, trying to work with
Hmm.
locals more,
Yeah.
you're in a little bit more danger, right, than an
Well,
actual
I wouldn't
tourist.
say so much. Like co-working space also depends on what co-working spaces you go to. When I was in Bali, they have so many different co-working spaces. So there's co-working spaces that are like lower budget and then the higher budget ones. The higher budget ones are geared mostly towards foreigners. So you
Okay.
have a lot of people who will pay a lot of money just to have a nice environment that's like nice and friendly. And then you have the lower end where it's in a small building and it's mostly locals. They don't really because Bali has such a co-working digital nomad culture. You don't have to deal with that so much. You deal more with people trying to steal your stuff from your village.
Oh, okay. So I
Yeah,
guess has Bali just really been a great place to work then as a
Bali was
nomad because of
Bali was amazing because it is known as the digital nomad destination.
hmm,
There's just so many they've made so many accommodations for foreigners coming as a digital nomad, but then again, you have to think about how that affects their local economy. So I wouldn't recommend it so much because of gentrification now.
Okay.
And when I was there during the pandemic, so everything was, I mean, yeah, everything was cheaper because there's not that many people, but now it's just full of people going there.
Okay. So it's
Yeah.
definitely a supply and demand thing, right? And
Yeah.
that probably is part of the reason you're not there right now. Or have
Yeah.
there been other favorite places to work?
Um, Egypt was nice. So I was in Egypt for a while, and that's when I was first trying to get started as a nomad. I only had to work for about 5 hours a week,
Oh,
which is
okay.
crazy to
Wait,
think
wait,
of.
wait. So, so only working 5 hours a week, is that simply because of just the exchange rate working in your favor and,
Well, it's not
having a low
only,
cost of living overseas?
yes, it's the low cost of living and the exchange rate. So when I was there, it was like half the price that is now. Now the exchange rate is double, but um, yeah, I only had to work 5 hours a week, and my rent was like $200 a
Oh,
month,
wow.
and it was nice because I would go and hang out with friends. We would go to cafe together, have coffee, and go swimming, go hiking, do rock climbing. It was a really nice life.
Again, you're trying to sound like, oh yeah, well, I just went rock climbing right after work or something like that. But
Well, I mean,
yeah,
yeah, I would because of course because of time zone, and also because I didn't have to work like at the same time. I worked a
yeah,
lot. A lot of time I worked asynchronously. So then I would just work when I wanted to or when I had time. So I would take 2 or 3 hours just to check over things or send proposals, and then go swimming,
right.
and then go
So
and have dinner outside, and then come home and then check proposals again and do some work and go back outside with friends and have coffee.
I mean, so then to segue from that theme or a concept of working asynchronously, right? I mean, I know
Hmm.
when we work together, I give you a lot of work to be done asynchronously as well. And
Hmm.
just for the listening audience's reference, I mean, when we work asynchronously, usually I would take like a task or story, and we would plan it out as best we can in advance. Just estimate the core number of hours and effort it would take, and then you would work on it independently. I wouldn't hold you to any sort of like standard office hours or any delivery or anything like that. If there's a due
Hmm.
date for the task, certainly, as long as you get it done by before then, it doesn't really matter to me. But the thing is, I know that such a method of working asynchronously, it kind of goes against what a lot of traditional office culture is, right?
Yeah.
And the thing is, a lot of it revolves around, having that understanding and trust in each other. And as well, I guess having boundaries in one's personal life and that discipline.
Yeah.
I mean, right now, I'm sure what you're describing, hey, I'll get up, go surfing in the morning, work 2 hours today, and then just go rock climbing in the afternoon. I mean, it sounds like a wonderful Instagram lifestyle to a lot of people, but I'm sure behind that, there's a lot of boundaries you have to set for yourself and that
Yeah.
discipline. I mean, what what secrets do you have there? I mean, what's to prevent the next 20-year-old from being able to do that, which both of us know at heart he probably couldn't.
Yeah. I mean, personally, it's what motivates me to keep those boundaries is I want to continue to have that nice life. So having fun and going out, I always have in the back of my mind, like, in order to have this lifestyle, I have to work. I have to like keep my clients happy. And I also really like what I do. So I think that also helps
Right.
because if you don't like what you do, you won't be motivated to do it.
That's very true. I mean, it sounds like you're clearly in love with the whole digital nomad lifestyle. You've clearly got that, sense of wanderlust, and you definitely have the opportunity to, fulfill your dreams right now. Do you ever think that maybe it'll be different? That perhaps you'll settle down in a specific place? Maybe you'll even like, have a regular office commute one day, or do you anticipate living like this for a long time?
Oh, sometimes I think about settling down, and then when I try, things happen and it just doesn't happen. It doesn't pan
Right.
out. Like, I tried to settle down in the Bay Area, it didn't work. So, the time being, it's still happening.
Wait, you mean in the heart of Silicon Valley, you still couldn't, you still felt restless?
Yes. Yeah, I did.
Oh, okay. Is there anything
I
about
thought
that
it would
particularly you'd
be
like to share, or?
better than it was, but it's just I feel like having all these people who work 9 to 5 and then trying to be friends with them. And
Hmm.
because I can work remotely, I can work from anywhere. So if you want to hang out with friends and just do co-working, a lot of them they can't because they have to go to the office.
Right.
So then you're by yourself and you have to go and like find other people to co-work with. But a lot of times, if you go to cafes, it's students or like college students, which is fine, but they're not the kind of people that I really want to connect with professionally.
Right.
Yeah.
I think I think probably
So it's like a difference of lifestyles. And then you have people who like if when you become friends with them, they're jealous of your lifestyle and then they try to ask, how can you do this, blah blah. And then you try to give them advice and tell them this is what I did. These are like learn from my mistakes.
yeah.
They don't have the motivation to do it. And so you get frustrated
You
because
mean
like,
people in the
oh,
Bay
I
Area or just people trying to be nomads in general?
well, I mean, this is what I saw in the Bay Area with people that I
Hmm.
met, but I'm sure it would translate all over. It really takes drive. If you want to do it, you have to want to do it. You can't make excuses for it's like, oh, I want to do it, but then not taking the steps and action to learn what you need to do to live this lifestyle.
I think what I'm picking up from you is that, if you go to like the Bay Area or any sort of like tech hub where,
Hmm.
a lot of it, let's face it, a lot of it in this industry is just kind of like, virtue signaling, but more like work virtue signaling, right? Like we
Yeah.
all have that doom scroll LinkedIn where we look at it and everyone's just bragging about their work or, how this is
Hmm.
important to work or this virtue is important to work and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, you're just like going to work and doing the work thing and all you could talk about is
Exactly.
work. Whereas it's striking me just based off this conversation, and it's nothing you've referenced directly, but when you're like working in Bali or, a nice
Hmm.
exotic location like that, and you have other coworkers, but the only thing you have in common is that you're all from someplace else, you're all gathering together, and then
Yeah.
afterwards, when you all hang out together, you don't have that work baggage with you. You don't
Yeah.
have that need to impress each other. You could just go like surfing or, drink fresh out of coconuts or, play with the local wildlife there, whatever people do
Yeah, you can
overseas,
have
right?
like real life experiences with each other.
Right. Yeah. So I guess really that's what it boils down to. Like, in a lot of areas, a lot of cultures, a lot of local scenes, it's more like trying to impress each other, whereas
Yeah.
a lot of that you just shed if you're just all you have in common is you're just travelers, right?
Well, I mean, it's not only that, but everyone is interested in different things, so you can find other things that people are that you and the other person is interested in. For example, one of my good friends that I met in Egypt, he was a graphic designer and front end developer, and we learned a lot from each other. Like, I actually coded one of his designs, but we didn't, I mean, we helped each other out like during work, but we also went out and had made memories together. Like, we rock climbed together, went hiking together.
Right.
We shared real experiences. I mean, you can go rock climbing and hiking in the Bay Area, but the conversations would be different, right? You just
Hmm.
it's mostly just about what you do for work or who you work for.
Right. Right.
American tech culture, I guess, is just who are you? Like, are you an important person? Who do you work for?
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
saw that
And
a lot meetups and conferences that I went to in the Bay Area.
yeah, and even I'm guilty of that. That like sometimes I would go to a professional gathering or something like that, and it's just about collecting the business cards and thinking, hey, who can
Mm,
help me get ahead later, and calling them back, right? So,
yeah.
and it must be nice that you could kind of like absolve yourself of all that and just go to some place and just meet people for the sake of being people, right?
Yeah.
I guess with that in mind, are there any other locations or countries you would like to visit next, or?
I'd love to go to Thailand. Well, another reason why I love traveling so much is just tasting all of the foods. So I'm a big foodie. I love food.
Yeah.
Um, Thailand has really good food, and it also has a really big digital nomad community. But there's a lot of communities all over.
How do you
Yeah,
find out about these communities? Like, I'm sure most people when they like Google Thailand tourism or something, they're not going to find out about like digital nomad centers or I mean, where's like digital nomad culture in Thailand? Is it like around the more kind of vacationy, touristy type places like
well,
Phuket, or
that
is it?
also, but like Chiang Mai, I think was a very big one,
Oh,
and
Chiang
like
Mai, yeah, up in
Bangkok,
the
and
mountains there, right?
yeah. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of different places, and the way that digital nomads tend to communicate and find each other is through Facebook groups. Like there's a lot
Okay.
of digital nomad Facebook groups.
I know
There's
there's a lot of 20-year-olds out there right now saying, "Oh man, people still use
Facebook.
Facebook," but
I know when I came back to the US, Facebook, when I ask people about Facebook, they're like, huh, nobody uses it anymore. But in
right.
like outside of the US, people use it quite a lot. Yeah.
Okay.
For
Any other
me,
countries like
especially.
Mexico or
Well, I went to Mexico recently and I would like to spend some time there. It was really nice. But
okay.
I like to
Any
go to places where there are beaches and nice and warm
Ah,
weather.
okay, all right. I was wondering what
Because
the common denominator was because I
yeah,
didn't hear you say like France or anything like that, right? No, no. All respect to France. I mean, maybe some people, maybe there's a huge digital nomad culture there. I don't know, but
actually I worked a little bit from London last year.
oh, I
London and
remember that.
Portugal
Yeah,
and Spain.
yeah,
But
yeah.
it
I
was nice
remember
except
that. You were like ahead of me time wise for a change. I was like, whoa, this is strange. So
yeah.
yeah.
But the problem with that is you have to wear thick and like heavy clothes because it's cold. If you go to warmer climates, you don't have to pack as many clothes.
Huh.
So, and I personally don't like to check luggage. I like to carry
Right.
it on because I don't trust airlines bringing me my luggage. So,
I think that's I think that's universal. I mean, is there any other advice you'd like to give the next generation of digital nomads? Any up and coming nomads? I mean, don't
learn how
check
to
your bag.
pack your
Don't check
clothes.
bags. That's one. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Learn to pack your clothes. Like use vacuum sealed bags to minimize space. Um, get yourself a tripod if you want to do content creation anyway. Use a SIM card. Make sure you have an unlocked phone. That's very
Okay.
important. What else? Research your location before you go and try to find someone who actually lives there so you can get some advice and help when you're boots on the ground.
So it's kind of like a location mentor in a way, right?
Yes, yeah. And
Okay.
they can also tell you where the good places to eat at are, stay, like co-working spaces, cafes.
Is there any crossover then? But because what you're describing seems very similar to a lot of expat cultures I've heard of, right? So is
Yeah,
there any crossover
it's
between nomads and expats or
yeah, there's a lot of people who become expats
okay.
from nomads because you can work from wherever and then they find out, oh, this place is actually really nice. The weather's good. I could live here. I have friends here. And so then they end up just staying there. But you need to make sure you have the right visas or you can get in trouble.
Ah, okay, I
Yeah.
see. So, I guess, yeah, just learn to be I guess, top tips then for being a digital nomad is, learn to travel light, learn to travel well, and use Facebook, right?
Yes, yeah, basically. Oh, and WhatsApp. A lot of people use WhatsApp.
Ah, WhatsApp. Okay, yeah. I think you're like one of the three people I have on WhatsApp. I don't really use it that much, but yeah. All right, this has been a great conversation. Is there anything else that you'd like people to know, or
Stay safe. Stay in
okay?
school.
True, true. You can't just drop out of school and be a nomad, right?
I mean, you could, but get your GED.
Okay. All right. All right. It's been great talking to you, Ileana. And yeah, I'm sure we'll see you again here on the Crucible Cloudworks Live as as your advice goes, may you stay safe and, stay in school. We'd be happy to give your Salesforce org a second look. Thank you for subscribing. We look forward to seeing you on our next episode.